Chapter 1. The Mysterious Invitation. The fog clung to the Thames like a guilty conscience as Hercule Poirot descended the steps of his Art Deco apartment in Whitechapel Court. It was late October, and London had surrendered to the damp chill that turned every breath into a small white ghost. Poirot, immaculate in a charcoal overcoat and patent leather shoes that reflected the gas lamps like twin black mirrors, paused at the curb. His moustaches, those celebrated masterpieces of symmetry, bristled with the faintest irritation. A taxi had failed to appear at the appointed minute. In Poirot's world, punctuality was not merely a virtue, but a moral imperative. At last a black Austin glided to the pavement. The driver, a taciturn man with a face like a crumpled map, touched his cap. "Whitechapel Court, Gov. Thought you'd be off to the Ritz or some such." "Non, mon ami," Poirot replied, settling into the back seat with the precision of a chess master placing a knight. "Tonight, I am summoned elsewhere." The envelope lay in his gloved hand, heavy cream stock sealed with crimson wax. The crest embossed upon it, a raven clutching a broken quill, had puzzled him since its arrival that morning. No return address, only a single line in elegant copperplate. "Your presence is required at Blackwood Manor, Friday the 23rd. Come alone, discretion assured." Beneath the words, a postscript, "The carpet remembers." Poirot turned the phrase over in his mind as the taxi rattled across London Bridge. Carpets, he reflected, were like people. They absorbed stains, concealed secrets, and occasionally betrayed their owners. He had once solved the case of the Persian runner in Brussels, because a single misplaced tassel had spoken louder than any witness. But this felt different. The invitation carried no signature, yet the hand was educated, the pressure of the nib deliberate. Someone wished to impress, perhaps to intimidate. The taxi left the city behind, threading through Kent's skeletal orchards, where the last apples clung like blood drops to the branches. Poirot closed his eyes, allowing the rhythm of the engine to lull him into that half-trance, where his little grey cells performed their silent gymnastics. When he opened them again, the landscape had surrendered to darkness, and the headlights carved a tunnel through the night. At precisely 9:30, the Austin turned between stone gateposts topped with weathered griffins. The drive wound upward through yew trees whose branches scraped the roof like desperate fingers. Poirot noted the absence of electric light. Only a few oil lamps flickered along the gravel, their flames trembling in the wind. Blackwood Manor rose ahead, a Gothic confection of turrets and gargoyles, its windows glowing amber against the bruised sky. The front door opened before the taxi halted. A butler, tall, sepulchral, with the pallor of a man who had never seen sunlight, bowed with mechanical precision. "Monsieur Poirot, you are expected." "Expected, oui. But by whom?" Poirot stepped into the entrance hall, where a chandelier of Venetian glass dripped light onto a floor of black and white marble. The air smelled of beeswax, wood smoke, and something metallic beneath. Blood, perhaps, or merely the memory of it. The butler relieved Poirot of his coat and hat. "Sir Reginald will receive you in the library. This way." They passed beneath a staircase where portraits scowled down in centuries of disapproval. Poirot's gaze lingered on a woman in emerald silk, her eyes following him with unsettling intensity. The library door stood ajar, revealing shelves that climbed to a painted ceiling of astrological symbols. A fire crackled in a hearth, carved with serpents devouring their tails. Sir Reginald Blackwood rose from a leather-wing chair. He was perhaps 60, lean as a stiletto, with silver hair swept back from a widow's peak. His evening clothes were faultless, but his left hand trembled as he extended it. "Monsieur Poirot, you honour us." "Sir Reginald." Poirot shook the hand, noting the coldness of the skin, the faint tremor. "Your invitation was enigmatic. A necessity, I fear." Blackwood gestured to a decanter of amber liquid. "Whiskey, or perhaps you prefer something sweeter?" "Perrier, if you please, with a twist of lime." Poirot's eyes swept the room. On a pedestal between the windows stood the carpet, an Oriental masterpiece, predominantly crimson and indigo, its border alive with mythical beasts. Even in the firelight he could see the stain, a dark, irregular bloom near the centre, shaped almost like a continent. Blackwood followed his gaze. "You notice it already? Good. That is why you are here." "The carpet remembers," Poirot murmured. "Exactly so." Blackwood poured the Perrier with unsteady fingers. "3 nights ago, my nephew Alistair was found dead upon it, stabbed through the heart with an antique Kurdish dagger from my collection. The police called it suicide. They are fools." Poirot accepted the glass. "And you believe otherwise?" "I know otherwise." Blackwood's voice dropped to a whisper. Alistair was right-handed. The angle of the wound was impossible. Moreover, the dagger was wiped clean, too clean for a man intending to end his own life. Someone placed it in his hand after death. Poirot sipped the water, the lime sharp against his tongue. "The stain, blood? Human. Typo, same as Alistair's. But the carpet is priceless. A gift from the Shah of Persia to my grandfather in 1897. The family has refused to allow it to be cut or cleaned. They insist the stain is part of its history now." "History," Poirot repeated, "or evidence?" Blackwood's laugh was bitter. "Precisely. The police took photographs, statements, then closed the case. My sister, Alistair's mother, threatens to burn the carpet herself if the truth is not found. The rest of the family circles like vultures. I need someone who sees what others miss." Poirot set the glass down. "And the guests assembled here tonight?" "Family, mostly. My sister Lavinia, her daughter Celeste, my brother Marcus, who arrived from Cairo yesterday with his secretary, a charming but opaque young man named Mr. Khalil. Then there is Dr. Forsyth, the family physician, and Miss March, Alistair's fiancée, or rather, his former fiancée, since she ended the engagement a fortnight before his death. They all claim to have been elsewhere when Alistair died. Their alibis are paper-thin." Poirot approached the carpet, kneeling with the care of a priest at an altar. The stain was larger than he had expected, spreading outward in delicate filaments like frost on glass. He drew a magnifying glass from his pocket, its lens catching the firelight. "The blood had soaked through to the underside," he observed, "yet the pattern beneath remains undisturbed. Curious." Blackwood hovered behind him. "What do you see?" "Patience, mon ami. Poirot sees everything, but he reveals nothing until the picture is complete." He straightened, brushing imaginary dust from his trousers. "Tell me, were there footprints in the blood?" "None. The police remarked on it. Alistair was found supine, arms spread, the dagger in his right hand. No smears, no drag marks, as if he floated there, or was placed there." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "And the dagger? May I see it?" Blackwood hesitated, then crossed to a display case. The dagger lay on black velvet, its blade curved like a crescent moon, the hilt encrusted with turquoises. "Locked away since the inquest. The police returned it this morning." Poirot lifted it carefully. The blade was spotless, but beneath the magnifier he detected the faintest irregularity. A hairline scratch near the tip, and something else. a microscopic flake of dried blood caught in the filigree. "This has not been properly cleaned," he said softly. "Someone was in a hurry." A gong sounded in the distance, deep and mournful. Blackwood started. "Dinner. The others will be waiting." Poirot replaced the dagger. "Then let us not keep them. I find that hunger sharpens the appetite for truth." As they moved toward the door, Poirot paused beneath the portrait of the woman in emerald. "Your ancestress?" "My great-aunt, Beatrice Blackwood. She disappeared in 1903. Some say she eloped with a Maharaja. Others claim she was murdered for the carpet. Family legend says her blood mingles with Alistair's now." Poirot studied the painted eyes, dark and unreadable. "Legends, Sir Reginald, are like carpets. They conceal as much as they reveal." The dining room lay beyond a corridor hung with tapestries of hunting scenes. As they approached, voices rose in argument, sharp, cultured, laced with fear. Poirot's moustaches twitched in anticipation. The game, as his friend Hastings would say, was afoot. But Hercule Poirot preferred a different metaphor. For him, murder was a tapestry, and he held the loose thread. All that remained was to pull. Chapter 2. Arrival at Blackwood Manor. The taxi's headlights swept across the manor's facade like searchlights over a prison wall, revealing ivy that strangled the stone in slow, deliberate coils. Hercule Poirot stepped onto the gravel, his valise light in the butler's hand, yet the weight of expectation pressed upon him heavier than any luggage. The front door, oak banded with iron, scarred by centuries of English weather, stood open, exhaling warmth and the faint perfume of hothouse lilies. "Welcome to Blackwood, monsieur," the butler intoned. His name, Poirot would learn, was Grimshaw. His voice carried the hollow resonance of a crypt. "Sir Reginald awaits in the great hall. The family is assembling." Poirot crossed the threshold. The entrance hall soared 2 stories, its hammer-beam roof lost in shadow. A fire roared in a hearth large enough to roast an ox, yet the air remained chill, as though the house itself resented the intrusion of heat. Suits of armour flanked the staircase, their visors lowered in eternal vigilance. Between them, a grandfather clock ticked with the solemnity of a judge pronouncing sentence. Grimshaw led him past a suit of Japanese samurai armour. 16th century, Poirot noted approvingly, the lacquer still glossy. And through a pair of doors carved with the same raven and quill crest that had sealed the mysterious invitation. The great hall unfolded like a stage set for tragedy. A vaulted chamber lit by a dozen candelabra, their flames trembling in draughts that found their way through unseen cracks. At the far end, a minstrel's gallery loomed, its balustrade carved into grotesque faces that seemed to watch. Sir Reginald stood beneath a chandelier of Waterford crystal, its prisms scattering light across his pale features. He was not alone. "Poirot, you are punctual to the minute," he said, relief flickering in his eyes. "Allow me to present the household." A semicircle of faces turned toward the detective, each illuminated by candlelight that carved shadows into cheekbones and hollows. Poirot's gaze moved methodically, cataloguing details the way a jeweller assesses gems. Nearest stood Lady Lavinia Blackwood, Sir Reginald's elder sister. She was 60 if she was a day, yet her posture remained regal, her silver hair coiled like a coronet. Mourning black suited her. The jet beads at her throat caught the light like drops of congealed blood. Her eyes, Alistair's eyes, Poirot realized, were red-rimmed but dry. Grief or the absence of it? Beside her, Miss Celeste Blackwood, Alistair's cousin, defied the gloom in a gown of emerald silk that shimmered like a dragonfly's wing. 25, perhaps 26, with the kind of beauty that made men forget their manners and women their charity. She toyed with a diamond, bracelet, her gaze sliding over Poirot with polite indifference before settling on the carpet visible through the open drawing-room doors. Marcus Blackwood, Sir Reginald's younger brother, lounged against a tapestry depicting Actaeon devoured by his own hounds. He had the dissolute air of a man who had spent too many nights in Cairo's less reputable establishments. His dinner jacket was rumpled, his tie askew. A scar, sabre-cut, bisected his left eyebrow. Beside him stood Mr. Khalil, his secretary, olive-skinned, immaculate with the watchful stillness of a cat. His eyes, Poirot noted, never left Marcus's glass. Dr. Forsyth, the family physician, was a study in contrasts. Tall, stooped, with the gentle hands of a man who had delivered babies and closed the eyes of the dying. His spectacles flashed as he nodded at Poirot, but his smile did not reach his eyes. Finally, Miss Eleanor March, Alistair's former fiancée. She stood apart, near the fireplace, a fragile figure in dove-grey chiffon. Her blonde hair was pinned severely, but a single curl had escaped, brushing her cheek like a question mark. Her hands trembled as she clutched a lace handkerchief spotted with, what, tears, or something darker? Monsieur Poirot, Lady Lavinia said, her voice cutting through the silence like a shard of ice. We are told you are the finest detective in Europe. I trust you are also discreet. Discretion, madame, is the lock upon the door of truth. Poirot bowed. I open it only when the key fits perfectly. Marcus snorted. Belgian bluster. Alistair's dead. The police have washed their hands and we're all suspects in a bad play. Let's dine and be done with it. Marcus! Lady Lavinia's tone could have frozen wine. Your nephew lies cold because of this family's sins, and you speak of dinner. Sins? Celeste's laugh tinkled like breaking glass. Aunt, you speak as though we're characters in one of your Gothic novels. Alistair was melancholy. He drank, he gambled. Perhaps he simply stabbed himself with his left hand. Sir Reginald's voice cracked like a whip. Enough! Monsieur Poirot is our guest. We will accord him courtesy. Poirot raised a hand. Courtesy is a luxury, Sir Reginald. Truth is a necessity. Before we dine, I would see the room where Monsieur Alistair died. A collective intake of breath. Miss March swayed. Dr. Forsyth moved to steady her, but she shrank from his touch. Now? Lady Lavinia asked. Now, Poirot confirmed. The scene of a crime is like a lover. It reveals most when freshly wounded. Sir Reginald gestured toward the drawing-room. The party moved as one, a reluctant procession. Poirot noted the dynamics. Celeste gliding ahead, Marcus lagging with Khalil, Miss March trailing like a ghost. The Oriental carpet dominated the room, its crimson expanse glowing under a chandelier that had been dimmed to half-light. The stain, Alistair's, Viu blood, spread across the central medallion like a dark sun. Poirot knelt, his knees protesting the cold marble beneath the carpet's padding. He produced his magnifying glass again, this time joined by a small torch. The beam revealed details the police photographs had missed. A faint scuff mark near the stain's edge, as though a shoe had pivoted. A single thread of emerald silk caught in the pile. Celeste's gown. And most intriguing, a depression in the carpet's underlay. Circular, no larger than a sixpence. Grimshaw, Poirot called. The butler materialized as if conjured. This depression, was it noted in the police report? I cannot say, sir. The constables were thorough, but not meticulous. Poirot's lips twitched. Thoroughness without meticulousness was like a soufflé without eggs. He stood, brushing his trousers. The body was found at what hour? midnight, Sir Reginald replied. I discovered him myself. I had retired early with a headache, but insomnia drove me down for a book. The door was ajar. Alistair lay thus. He indicated the stain's position. And the dagger? In his right hand, point toward his heart. The blade entered here. Sir Reginald touched his own chest just left of centre, and protruded 6 inches from his back. Poirot's mind sketched the geometry. A right-handed man, supine, would need to angle the blade awkwardly upward. Possible, but improbable. He turned to the room's occupants. Who was the last to see Alistair alive? Silence. Then Miss March whispered, I was. All eyes turned to her. She lifted her chin, the curl trembling against her cheek. We argued, in the conservatory, about money. He wanted to borrow against the estate. I refused. He was furious. He said, her voice broke, he said he would rather die than be beholden to me. What time was this? Poirot asked gently. 11 o'clock, perhaps a little after. I went to my room. I heard nothing until Sir Reginald's cry. Marcus drained his glass. Convenient. The grieving fiancée, alone in her room, while Alistair bleeds on a £1 million carpet. Marcus, please, Dr. Forsyth murmured. Poirot ignored the barb. And the rest of you? Alibis tumbled forth like marbles from a child's pocket. Lady Lavinia had been reading in her boudoir until midnight, then taken a sleeping draught. Celeste claimed to have been practicing scales on the pianoforte in the music room, though no one recalled hearing music. Marcus and Khalil had played billiards until 11:30, then retired to Marcus's study for brandy. Dr. Forsyth had been in the library, cataloguing Sir Reginald's medical journals. Paper-thin, as Sir Reginald had warned. Poirot filed each excuse away. Dinner was announced with a gong that reverberated through the house like a death knell. The dining room lay beyond the drawing room, a cavernous space panelled in dark oak. A Digueur table set for 9 gleamed with silver and crystal. A centrepiece of blood-red roses dripped petals onto the damask cloth. Poirot took his seat between Miss March and Dr. Forsyth. Across from him, Celeste's emerald gown caught the candlelight, drawing every eye. Conversation limped along topics of weather and the deplorable state of the railways until the soup, consommé madrilène, chilled to perfection, was served. It was Marcus who shattered the fragile civility. "Tell me, Poirot," he said, swirling his claret, "do you believe in ghosts? Blackwood's riddled with them. Beatrice's shade walks the long gallery at midnight, trailing silk and perfume. Perhaps she mistook Alistair for an intruder and— Enough!" Lady Lavinia's spoon clattered against her bowl. "Beatrice was a harlot who ran off with a Persian prince. She has no place at this table." "Yet her carpet does," Celeste murmured. "Funny that." Poirot sipped his soup, observing the ripple of tension. The carpet again. Always the carpet. Miss March pushed her bowl away, untouched. "Alistair hated that carpet," she said suddenly. "He said it watched him, that the eyes in the border followed him across the room." "Superstition," Marcus scoffed. "Though I'll admit, the thing's valuable enough to kill for. The Shah's weavers used real lapis in the indigo, worth a king's ransom." Sir Reginald's knuckles whitened around his glass. "The carpet stays. It is Blackwood." Dessert, Charlotte Russe with brandied cherries, was served in near silence. Poirot declined coffee, requesting instead a tour of the conservatory, where Miss March and Alistair had quarrelled. Sir Reginald acquiesced, though his reluctance was palpable. The conservatory adjoined the drawing-room through a glass door, veiled with ivy. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of orchids and damp earth. Moonlight filtered through the glass roof, silvering the leaves of a massive Kentia palm. In the centre stood a wrought-iron table, 2 chairs pushed back as though their occupants had risen in haste. "Here," Miss March said, her voice barely audible. "He stood there. I sat here. He slammed his fist on the table, so." She demonstrated, the metal ringing. "The glasses jumped. 1 shattered." Poirot examined the floor. Tiny shards of crystal glittered among the tiles like frost. He knelt, selecting a fragment with tweezers from his pocket. "Waterford, like the chandelier, and this," he held up a darker sliver, "is port. Alistair's drink of choice." Miss March nodded. "He was all ready or unsteady. I feared for him." Poirot's torch beam swept the floor. A faint scuff mark, similar to the one near the bloodstain, marred the tiles near the door to the drawing-room. "He left in anger. He stormed out, through there." She pointed to the connecting door. "I followed, but he was gone. I thought he'd gone to the library. He often read when upset." Poirot opened the door to the drawing-room. The carpet lay in shadow, the stain a black hole in the moonlight. He stepped onto the wool, testing its depth. The pile was thick, luxurious, perfect for absorbing sound. Or blood, a soft gasp behind him. Miss March clutched the doorframe. "I can't," she whispered. "Not again." Poirot turned. "Mademoiselle, courage! The dead do not bite. It is the living we must fear." As they returned to the great hall, Poirot's mind raced. The scuff marks, the emerald thread, the impossible angle of the wound, pieces of a puzzle that refused to align. And beneath it all, the carpet, silent witness to violence twice in a century. In the hall, the others waited like players between acts. Celeste examined her reflection in a gilded mirror. Marcus poured another drink. Khalil watched the stairs. Dr. Forsyth consulted his pocket watch with the air of a man counting minutes to an execution. Poirot addressed them collectively. "Mesdames et messieurs, I retire now, but tomorrow we begin in earnest. I will speak with each of you, alone, and I will examine this house from attic to wine cellar. Somewhere the truth hides. Poirot will find it." Lady Lavinia's chin lifted. "And if the truth destroys us?" Poirot's smile was small, sharp. "Then, madame, it is a truth that should have been faced long ago." Grimshaw appeared to show Poirot to his room. A chamber on the 2nd floor, its windows overlooking the yew maze. The bed was a 4-poster carved with ravens, the counterpane heavy brocade. A fire burned low in the grate. Alone at last, Poirot removed his patent shoes, aligning them precisely. He opened his valise, extracting a small leather notebook. On the first page, he wrote in his neat slanted hand, "Observations, Blackwood Manor, night 1 stain, human blood, typo, spreads 14 inches diameter. Depression in carpet, 6 mm, circular, coin, button. Scuff marks, drawing room plus conservatory, same shoe, emerald thread, matches Miss Celeste's gown. Dagger scratch plus blood flake, cleaned hastily. Alibis, inconsistent rule, music, billiards, reading, carpet, central to motive, value, curse." He underlined the final word twice, then closed the book. From the corridor came the soft creak of floorboards, someone passing or pausing. Poirot's hand moved to the dagger he had borrowed from the display case, now wrapped in silk in his pocket. Outside, an owl hooted. The fire settled with a sigh. Somewhere in the house, a door closed with the finality of a coffin lid. Poirot extinguished the lamp. In the darkness, the raven crest on the wax seal seemed to watch him still. Tomorrow, the hunt would begin in earnest. Chapter 3. The Evening Soirée. The dining-room gong had barely ceased its bronze reverberation when the house seemed to inhale, drawing every soul toward the long table as if by magnetic force. Hercule Poirot lingered in the doorway of the great hall, one gloved hand resting on the carved newel post, the other cradling the silk-wrapped Kurdish dagger he had quietly removed from the display case. He had not asked permission. Permission, he reflected, was a luxury murderers rarely granted. Grimshaw appeared at his elbow like a well-trained spectre. "This way, monsieur. Sir Reginald has requested you sit at his right." "An honour," Poirot murmured, though honours in murder houses were usually poisoned chalices. The dining-room blazed with light. 3 chandeliers, each holding 40 candles, hung above a table that could have seated a regiment. Silver epergnes overflowed with hothouse fruits. Crystal decanters caught the flames and flung them back in ruby shards. Yet the grandeur felt brittle, as though the room itself anticipated violence. Poirot's place card, penned in the same copper plate as the invitation, read simply, Monsieur Hercule Poirot. To his left, Miss Eleanor March. To Sir Reginald's left, Lady Lavinia Blackwood. The seating chart, Poirot noted with approval, placed every suspect within his line of sight. As he took his seat, the candles guttered in a sudden draught. Miss March flinched. A droplet of wax fell onto the damask cloth, like a tear. "Forgive the theatrics," Sir Reginald said, rising. "The house is old. It breathes." "Old houses," Poirot replied, "breathe secrets." A tureen of turtle soup was served. The aroma, rich, maritime, faintly medicinal, filled the air. Poirot declined. Turtle reminded him unpleasantly of a case in Marseille involving a drowned chef. Instead, he watched. Lady Lavinia spooned her soup with mechanical precision, but her eyes remained fixed on the empty chair at the table's foot, Alistair's place. A black ribbon had been tied around its back like a mourning band. Marcus Blackwood, 3 seats down, had already emptied his wine-glass. Khalil refilled it without being asked, his movements fluid, economical. Celeste toyed with a pearl earring, her gaze flicking between Poirot and the doorway as though expecting someone else to arrive. Dr. Forsyth ate steadily, but Poirot noticed his left hand, beneath the table, resting on Miss March's wrist. Comfort or restraint? The soup was cleared. Roast pheasant followed, its skin lacquered gold, accompanied by truffled potatoes and baby carrots glazed in honey. Conversation remained desultory until Marcus, emboldened by claret, leaned forward. "Tell me, Poirot," he said, carving the bird with unnecessary violence, "do you believe a carpet can be cursed?" Lady Lavinia's fork clattered. "Marcus!" "No, aunt. Let the little man answer." The Shah's weavers were Zoroastrian, fire worshippers. They say the border pattern is a binding spell. Anyone who spills innocent blood on it invites the wrath of Ahura Mazda. He speared a piece of pheasant. "Alistair spilled his own. Perhaps the gods collected." Celeste laughed, a sound like ice cracking. "You've been listening to Cairo fortune-tellers again. Next you'll claim the carpet drinks blood. Does it not?" Marcus gestured with his knife. "Look at the stain. 3 days, and it's darker, not lighter, as if it feeds." Poirot sipped his Perrier. "Blood, monsieur, is merely iron and water. It oxidizes, but carpets," he set the glass down with precision. "Carpets remember pressure, not curses." Miss March's voice was barely audible. Alistair said the eyes in the border followed him, that they blinked when he turned away. Dr. Forsyth patted her hand. "Delirium tremens, my dear." Alistair drank enough gin to float a battleship. "Yet the eyes," Poirot said softly. are merely knots of dyed wool, unless someone taught them to see." A silence fell, broken only by the crackle of the fire. Grimshaw circulated with a decanter of Sauterne. Poirot covered his glass. Sweetness dulled the palate, and tonight he needed every sense sharp. The pheasant was removed. A sorbet of blood oranges arrived, its colour an uncomfortable echo of the carpet stain. Celeste pushed hers away untouched. Sir Reginald cleared his throat. "After dinner, we adjourned to the music room. Celeste will play. It was Alistair's favourite room." "Was it?" Celeste's tone was sharp. "He hated my playing, said I murdered Chopin worse than any dagger could." Lady Lavinia's lips thinned. "You will play, child, for your cousin's memory." The sorbet melted into crimson pools. Cheese followed, Stilton, brie, a sharp cheddar, served with oatcakes and quince paste. Poirot accepted a sliver of cheddar, noting that Marcus had switched to port, his third glass. As coffee was poured, Sir Reginald rose again. "A toast to Alistair. May the truth find him, wherever he is." Glasses lifted. Miss March's hand shook so violently that coffee sloshed onto her saucer. Dr. Forsyth took the cup from her fingers. "To truth," Poirot echoed, but his eyes were on the doorway. Grimshaw had vanished moments earlier. Now he reappeared, his face grey. "Sir Reginald," he said, voice cracking. "The drawing-room door. It's locked from the inside." A collective gasp. Marcus laughed, but it emerged strangled. Someone's idea of a joke. Sir Reginald was already moving. "The key. It's kept in the butler's pantry." Poirot stood. "No, we go together now." They moved as one, a bizarre procession. Sir Reginald leading, Poirot at his side, the others trailing like reluctant pilgrims. The drawing-room door, solid oak carved with the ubiquitous raven, stood closed. Sir Reginald rattled the handle. "Locked! Grimshaw! The key!" The butler produced it from his pocket, hands trembling. The lock turned with a click that sounded unnaturally loud. The door swung inward. The room was dark, the chandelier unlit. Moonlight filtered through the windows, silvering the Oriental carpet. The bloodstain gleamed wetly, as though freshly spilled. But that was not what stopped their breath. In the centre of the stain stood a single red rose, its petals dewed with crimson droplets. Beside it lay the Kurdish dagger, unwrapped, its blade dark with fresh blood. Miss March screamed. Lady Lavinia clutched the doorframe. Marcus swore in Arabic. Poirot stepped forward, his shoes silent on the wool. He knelt, examining the rose without touching it. The droplets were blood, warm, still tacky. The dagger's blade bore a smear that matched the carpet's original stain, but also new streaks. "Impossible," Sir Reginald whispered. "The room was empty not an hour ago. We all saw." Poirot's torch beam swept the floor. The depression he had noted earlier was deeper now, as though something heavy had rested there momentarily. And beside it, a footprint. Small, narrow, the tread of a woman's evening slipper, the heel stained red. "Someone has been here," Poirot said, "very recently, and they left us a message." Celeste's voice floated from the doorway, unnaturally calm. "The carpet drinks blood. You heard Uncle Marcus." Poirot stood. "Non, mademoiselle. Carpets do not drink, but murderers—" He picked up the rose by its stem, careful not to disturb the blood. "Murderers leave bouquets." He turned to the group. "Who among you wears scarlet slippers?" Miss March lifted her skirt a fraction. Her slippers were silver. Celeste's were emerald green. Lady Lavinia wore black velvet. Dr. Forsyth cleared his throat. "No one, monsieur. We are all in dinner shoes." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "Then our visitor is either a ghost or someone who changed their shoes after leaving this room." Sir Reginald found his voice. "The rose! It's from the conservatory. I cut them myself this morning." Poirot nodded. "And the blood?" Dr. Forsyth stepped forward, producing a small vial and cotton swab from his pocket. He dabbed the dagger's blade, then the rose petals. "Human," he said after a moment. "Type O, same as Alistair's." Marcus laughed again, hysteria edging his voice. "The carpet's hungry. It wants more." "Silence!" Lady Lavinia's command cracked like a whip. "Grimshaw, lock this door. No one enters until morning." Poirot raised a hand. "Non. The room must be guarded, oui, but not locked. Our murderer enjoys theatrics. Let us not deny them an audience." He turned to the group. "Mesdames et messieurs, the soirée continues. But now, the music room will serve a different purpose. I will question each of you, separately. The rose and the dagger have spoken. It is time you did the same." As they filed out, Poirot lingered, his torch beam lingering on the footprint. Size 5, perhaps 6, delicate arch. The tread pattern was distinctive, tiny fleur-de-lis. He slipped the rose into a silk handkerchief, then wrapped the dagger anew. In his pocket, they felt warm, almost alive. In the music room, a Bechstein Grand, piano dominated the space, its lid propped open like a hungry mouth. Sheet music lay scattered. Chopin's Nocturne in C-sharp minor, heavily annotated in Alistair's hand. Poirot took the piano bench, gesturing for the others to sit. "We begin with Mademoiselle Celeste. The emerald thread on the carpet, was it yours?" Celeste's chin lifted. "I danced in the drawing-room after dinner, alone. Alistair's ghost wasn't using it." "Danced?" Poirot's eyebrows rose. "At what hour?" 11:15, perhaps 11:30. I needed air. The conservatory was stifling." "And you saw no one? No one living?" Poirot's gaze sharpened. "Explain." Celeste hesitated. "The chandelier was off, moonlight only. I thought I saw movement near the carpet, a shadow taller than Alistair. It vanished when I turned." Marcus snorted. "Brandy fumes, my dear." "Or guilt," Lady Lavinia said coldly. Poirot raised a hand. "Next, Miss March. You quarrelled with Alistair in the conservatory. What exactly was said?" Miss March's voice trembled. "He needed money, £20,000. Said he'd sell the carpet if he had to. I told him it would kill his mother, Lady Lavinia. He laughed, said some things were already dead. Such as his soul, our engagement, everything." Tears spilled. Then he stormed out. I followed, but he'd locked himself in the drawing-room. I heard music, Chopin, the Nocturne, then silence. Poirot's mind raced. The piano was here in the music room. Yet Miss March claimed to have heard it from the drawing-room. He turned to Dr. Forsyth. "You were in the library until when?" "Midnight. I heard the music stop, then Sir Reginald's cry." "And you, Monsieur Marcus?" "Billiards with Hercule until 11:30. Then brandy in my study. Hercule can confirm." Hercule nodded. "He was indisposed by midnight. I helped him to bed." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "And Lady Lavinia. Reading in my boudoir. I took laudanum at 11:45, slept until the commotion. Paper thin, all of it. But the rose, the blood, the footprint, those were solid." Poirot stood. "Enough for tonight. Tomorrow we examine shoes, alibis, and the conservatory roses. Grimshaw will guard the drawing-room. No one enters alone." As the group dispersed, Poirot lingered by the piano. He lifted the full board, pressing middle C. The note rang out, pure and chilling. Somewhere in the house, an answering note sounded, faint, mocking. Another piano? Or imagination? Poirot closed the lid. The game had escalated. The murderer was not content to hide. They were performing. And Hercule Poirot had always appreciated a good performance, provided he wrote the final act. In his room later, he added to his notebook, observations, evening soirée rose, fresh conservatory origin, blood warm, dagger, rebled, staged with rose, footprint, woman's slipper, size 5 to 6, fleur-de-lis, tread, music, heard in drawing room, but piano here, second instrument, motive, carpet sale threatened, inheritance, curse, theatrical device to frighten heirs. He underlined theatrical 3 times. Outside, the wind rose, rattling the windows like impatient fingers. Somewhere below, a door slammed. Poirot extinguished his lamp. In the darkness, the Raven Crest seemed to pulse. The soirée was over. The hunt had truly begun. Chapter 4. The Stain of Suspicion. Hercule Poirot woke before the maid's knock, his internal chronometer more reliable than any alarm. The fire had burned to embers. A grey light, thin as watered milk, seeped through the curtains. He lay motionless for exactly 90 seconds, allowing the night's fragments to settle into order. The rose, the fresh blood, the fleur-de-lis footprint, the phantom Chopin. Then he rose, performed his ablutions with military precision, and dressed in a charcoal 3-piece suit whose waistcoat buttons gleamed like tiny accusations. At 7:30 sharp, he descended the main staircase. Blackwood Manor felt different in daylight, less Gothic, more mausoleum. Dust motes drifted through shafts of pallid sun. The portraits seemed to sag with exhaustion. Grimshaw awaited in the entrance hall, a silver salver balanced on his palm. "Breakfast is served in the morning room, monsieur. Sir Reginald requests your presence at 8. Poirot lifted the salver's dome. A single white card lay beneath. Drawing room unsealed. Come alone. No signature, but the copper plate was unmistakable. "Curious," Poirot murmured. "Tell Sir Reginald I shall join him presently." He crossed to the drawing room. The door stood ajar, a wedge of stronger light spilling onto usher-pink carpet. Inside, the Oriental rug lay exactly as they had left it, save for one detail. The bloodstain had grown. Overnight, it had spread another 3 inches toward the hearth, its edges feathering into the indigo border like ink in water. Poirot knelt, torch in hand. The new blood was drier, darker, older than the droplets on the rose, yet fresher than Alistair's original pool. He touched the edge with a gloved finger. It came away tacky. Someone had added to the stain after midnight. But how? Grimshaw had stood guard until dawn. Poirot's beam swept the room. The windows were latched from within. The chimney flue closed. No footprints marred the fresh blood. Yet beneath the grand piano, its lid now closed, he spotted something. A narrow trail of crimson dots leading from the stain to the instrument's clawed feet. He crawled forward on all fours, moustaches brushing the wool. The trail ended at a small brass grate set into the floor, a heating vent, Victorian, long disused. The grate was askew, one screw missing. Poirot eased it free. Cool air breathed up, carrying the faint metallic tang of blood. He shone his torch downward. A vertical shaft, brick-lined, dropped into darkness. At its base, perhaps 15 feet below, something glinted. Glass? Metal? The beam caught a smear of red on the brickwork, still wet. "Mon Dieu," Poirot whispered, "the carpet bleeds from beneath." Footsteps behind him. Sir Reginald, hollow-eyed, stood in the doorway. "You see it too. It began at 4 this morning. Grimshaw swears no one passed him, yet the stain grows." Poirot replaced the grate. "Your ventilation system, Sir Reginald, it connects to the cellars?" "Indeed, a warren of tunnels." My grandfather installed central heating in 1898. The ducts run beneath every principal room. But the grates were sealed decades ago. Sealed, oui, but not all, it seems. Poirot stood, brushing his knees. We must descend, but first, breakfast. A detective thinks better on a full stomach. The morning room overlooked the rose garden, its French windows fogged with condensation. The table was set for 8. Only 6 places showed signs of use. A sideboard groaned beneath chafing dishes. Kedgeree, devilled kidneys, eggs en cocotte, kippers, a towering stack of toast. Poirot helped himself to a single poached egg and black coffee. Lady Lavinia presided, her mourning veil replaced by a severe black turban. Celeste buttered toast with theatrical languor. Marcus nursed a glass of what smelled suspiciously like hair of the dog. Khalil stood behind his chair, pouring coffee with the devotion of a Vestal Virgin. Dr. Forsyth read a medical journal, spectacles perched on his nose. Miss March was absent. "Where is Mademoiselle March?" Poirot inquired. "Indisposed," Lady Lavinia said tightly. "The events of last night. She is prostrate." "Prostrate," Poirot repeated, "or hiding." Marcus snorted. "Hiding from you, little man? She's terrified of the carpet. Always was. Alistair used to tease her, said it would swallow her whole if she stepped on the stain." Celeste's knife scraped porcelain. Alistair teased everyone. It was his only talent. Sir Reginald entered, grim-faced. "The stain has spread further. Poirot and I will investigate the cellars after breakfast." A collective shiver rippled the table. Dr. Forsyth closed his journal. "I'll accompany you. The ducts are narrow. Someone my size could become stuck. Or someone smaller could move freely," Poirot said pleasantly. Conversation died. The kedgeree cooled untouched. At 8:45, Poirot, Sir Reginald and Dr. Forsyth descended the service stairs. The cellars were a labyrinth of brick arches and cobwebs, lit by bare bulbs that swung like hanged men. The air was cold, damp, smelling of coal dust and centuries of spilled wine. Sir Reginald led them to a wrought-iron gate secured by a padlock thick with rust. "This opens to the heating tunnels. I haven't been down here since boyhood." Dr. Forsyth produced a key from his waistcoat. "I keep it for emergencies. Heart attacks mostly. Patients locked in wine cellars after overindulging." The lock surrendered with a screech. Beyond lay a narrow corridor, its floor gritty with soot. The heating ducts branched off like veins, each labelled in faded paint: drawing room, library, conservatory. They followed drawing room. The duct was barely 3 feet high. Poirot removed his jacket, folding it neatly over his arm. Dr. Forsyth crawled ahead, his medical bag clinking. Sir Reginald brought up the rear, lantern raised. 10 yards in, the duct widened into a junction. Here the brickwork was stained dark. Blood dried in streaks down the wall. At its base lay the source, a broken ampule of crimson liquid, its label half dissolved but legible. "Stage blood, theatrical supply, London." Poirot's moustaches bristled with satisfaction. "Ah, our ghost is an actor." Dr. Forsyth examined the ampule. "Corn syrup, red dye, iron oxide for realism, non-toxic, used in music halls." Sir Reginald's face was ashen. "Someone has been staging these manifestations. Précisément." Poirot's torch revealed more. A woman's scarlet slipper, size 5, its sole caked with dried blood and carpet fibres. The fleur-de-lis tread matched the print upstairs. Beside it, a coil of fine wire, piano wire, and a small tin of luminescent paint. "But the fresh blood on the rose," Sir Reginald protested. "That was real." "Real, oui, but whose?" Poirot bagged the slipper and ampule. "We return. The cellar can wait, the living cannot." They emerged into daylight to find Grimshaw waiting, frantic. "Sir, Miss March, she's gone." "Gone?" Sir Reginald echoed. "Her room is empty, bed not slept in, the window open, and this—" He held out a scrap of paper. "The carpet has taken what is mine. Forgive me." Lady Lavinia appeared, turban askew. "Eleanor, but she was here at breakfast." "Non," Celeste said from the stairs. "She wasn't. I checked her room at 7. The bed was made, but her travelling dress is missing, and her jewel case." Poirot's mind raced. Suicide, flight, or abduction? He turned to Grimshaw. "The garage. Any cars missing?" "The Daimler, sir. Gone since dawn." Sir Reginald swayed. Dr. Forsyth caught his arm. "Reginald, sit. You'll have an attack." Poirot's voice cut through the chaos. "We search the grounds. Now, Dr. Forsyth, the conservatory. Sir Reginald, the maze. Grimshaw, the stables. The rest remain here." He himself took the rose garden, moving with the swift economy of a terrier. The gravel paths were damp. Tire tracks led toward the west gate. Fresh, deep, the Daimler's distinctive tread. But halfway along, the tracks veered sharply into the rhododendrons. Poirot followed. The undergrowth was thick, branches snagging his waistcoat. 20 yards in, he found the car, slewed sideways, driver's door open. The engine ticked as it cooled. Inside, Miss March's grey travelling dress, neatly folded on the seat. Her jewel case, open and empty. And on the windscreen, written in blood-red lipstick, "The carpet remembers," but no Miss March. Poirot's torch swept the ground. Footprints, small, bare, led deeper into the woods. They ended at a stone fountain, its basin filled with dead leaves. In the centre, half submerged, lay the mate to the scarlet slipper. Its ribbon was torn, the sole bore a fresh cut, as though from glass. He knelt. Beneath the leaves, something glinted. Miss March's engagement ring, the diamond smeared with blood. Real blood this time. He could smell the iron. A twig snapped behind him. Poirot whirled, hand in his pocket where the Kurdish dagger rested. Celeste stood at the fountain's edge, barefoot, her emerald gown replaced by a man's dressing gown 3 sizes too large. Her hair was loose, wild, her eyes luminous with fear or triumph. He could not tell which. "You found her," she said. It was not a question. "Non, mademoiselle. I found her absence." Poirot stepped closer. "And you? Why are you here, and thus attired?" "I heard the car. I followed. Then I saw the dress." Her voice trembled, but her eyes did not. "She's dead, isn't she? The carpet took her." Poirot studied her feet. They were clean, but a faint bruise circled one ankle, as though from a wire. "Tell me, mademoiselle," he said softly, "do you play the pianoforte with your feet?" Celeste blinked. "What?" "The Chopin Nocturne. Miss March heard it from the drawing-room. Yet the piano is in the music-room. Unless," he gestured to the fountain, "there is a second instrument, below." Celeste's face drained of colour. "The old pedal harmonium, in the chapel crypt. Alistair used to play it when drunk. Said it sounded like drowning." Poirot's smile was small, sharp. "And you, mademoiselle, do you drown well?" Before she could answer, a shout echoed from the maze. Sir Reginald's voice, raw with terror. "Poirot! Come quickly!" They ran. The maze's yew walls loomed, slick with dew. At its centre stood a marble sundial, its gnomon twisted. Sir Reginald knelt beside it, Dr. Forsyth supporting him. On the sundial's face lay Miss March, or what remained of her. She was arranged like a broken doll, arms spread, grey dress soaked crimson. The Kurdish dagger protruded from her heart, its blade buried to the hilt. Her eyes stared sightlessly at the sky. Her lips were parted as though in mid-scream. But the most chilling detail: beneath her body, the gravel had been raked smooth, except for a perfect outline of the Oriental carpet's central medallion, traced in blood. Poirot knelt, torch steady. The wound was fresh, blood still seeped. He touched her cheek, cool but not cold. Death within the hour. Dr. Forsyth's voice shook. "She's been posed. The dagger, it's the same one." "No," Poirot said. "Look." He indicated the hilt. A hairline crack ran through the turquoise inlay, different from the dagger in his pocket. "Replica. Our murderer is thorough." Sir Reginald wept openly. "First Alistair, now Eleanor. Who hates us so?" Poirot stood, eyes sweeping the maze. High above, a rook cawed once and wheeled away. "Not hate, mon ami," he said quietly. "Theatre, and the final act approaches." He turned to Celeste, who had gone deathly pale. "Mademoiselle, your dressing-gown. Whose is it?" "Alistair's," she whispered. "I borrowed it. Mine was torn." "Torn by what? The rhododendrons or the wire around your ankle?" Celeste's hand flew to the bruise. I fell." Poirot's smile did not reach his eyes. "We shall see. For now, we return to the house. The police must be called, and the carpet—" He looked back at the sundial. "The carpet must be rolled." As they emerged from the maze, Poirot paused. In the distance, the manor's windows glinted like watchful eyes. Somewhere inside, the real carpet waited, stained, silent, and very much alive with secrets. In his pocket, the replica dagger felt heavier than lead. The stain of suspicion had spread beyond the wool. It now soaked the very soul of Blackwood Manor. Chapter 5. Poirot's Grey Cells. Awaken the morning room had become a tribunal. Sunlight, thin and surgical, cut through the tall windows and laid bare every crack in the Blackwood facade. The breakfast things were gone. In their place stood a single object on the mahogany table, the rolled Oriental carpet, its crimson bulk trussed with picture cord, like a condemned man. A dark wet patch seeped through the underside, dripping onto the parquet in slow, deliberate beats. Hercule Poirot stood at the head of the table, hands clasped behind his back, the very picture of a conductor awaiting his orchestra. Around him, the survivors assembled in a ragged semicircle, each face a study in fear, defiance, or calculation. Sir Reginald, hollow-eyed, clutched a glass of water as though it were brandy. Lady Lavinia sat ramrod straight, gloved hands knotted in her lap. Marcus Blackwood had abandoned all pretense of sobriety. A half-empty decanter of whisky stood at his elbow. Khalil hovered behind his master, expression unreadable. Dr. Forsyth cleaned his spectacles with a trembling handkerchief. Celeste, still in Alistair's oversized dressing-gown, had wrapped herself in a cashmere shawl, the colour of dried blood. Grimshaw stood by the door, shoulders bowed under the weight of 2 murders in 24 hours. Poirot waited until the dripping from the carpet became the loudest sound in the room. Then he spoke. "Mesdames et messieurs, we have a problem of geometry. 2 bodies, 1 carpet, 1 dagger, yet 2 blades, 1 stain that grows when no one watches, and 1 young lady who vanishes, only to reappear arranged like a tableau vivant in the maze." He paused, letting the silence stretch. "We will now dissect the impossible." He moved to the carpet and, with a flourish, sliced the cord. The rug unrolled, with a soft thud, releasing a puff of dust and the copper-sweet reek of blood. The original stain, Alistair's, dominated the centre, now overlaid with Miss March's fresher contribution. But Poirot's attention was on the underside. He flipped the heavy wool with Grimshaw's help. The backing canvas was saturated, yet beneath the central medallion someone had cut a precise rectangle, 12 inches by 8, and stitched it back with coarse black thread. The stitches were new, the thread still carrying faint traces of machine oil. "A pocket," Poirot announced, "sewn into the carpet itself. Observe." He inserted gloved fingers and drew out a flat tin box, the kind used by watercolorists. Inside, a folded sheet of onion skin paper, a second ampule of stage blood, unbroken, and a tiny key of yellow brass. Lady Lavinia's breath hitched. "That's Beatrice's paint box. She took it to Persia in 1903. Poirot unfolded the paper. In the same copper plate as the invitations, the carpet remembers. The third stain seals the bargain. "Midnight, All Hallows' Eve. Bring the key." "Tomorrow night," Dr. Forsyth murmured. "Halloween." Poirot pocketed the note. "A deadline. Very considerate of our murderer." He turned to the assembly. "Now, we reconstruct." He began with the physical. 1. The vent system. Using a silver butter knife as a pointer, he traced the heating ducts on a hastily sketched floor plan. From the cellar junction, one may reach every principal room without crossing a corridor. The grate beneath the piano was loosened weeks ago. Note the rust pattern. Someone small, Celeste's size perhaps, could crawl 30 yards in under 2 minutes. Celeste's chin lifted. "I weigh 8 stone. I'd suffocate." "No, you would wriggle, like a serpent in Eden." Poirot's smile was gentle, lethal. 2. The dagger duplicates. He laid both weapons side by side. The original turquoise inlay intact, hairline scratch near the tip. The replica, identical at a glance, but the crack in the inlay was wider, the steel slightly lighter. "A theatrical props maker in Shaftesbury Avenue," Poirot said. "I telephoned at dawn. They supplied 2 such daggers to a Miss C. Blackwood 3 weeks ago. Paid in cash." Celeste paled. I ordered them for a charity tableau. Macbeth." "Convenient," Poirot said. "Yet Lady Macbeth does not stab herself." 3. The footprints. He produced the scarlet slipper from the fountain. "Size 5, fleur-de-lis tread. Purchased at Peter Jones, Knightsbridge, 12th of October. Again cash. The sales clerk remembers a young lady with striking green eyes." He glanced at Celeste. "And a bruised ankle from trying them on without stockings." 4. The blood Dr. Forsyth had analysed samples overnight. Alistair's, type O, high alcohol. Miss March's, type O, traces of laudanum. The rose petals, type AB, pig's blood mixed with corn syrup. The growing. Stain, human type O, but diluted with glycerin. Someone is conserving supply. 5. The harmonium Poirot produced a length of piano wire, its end frayed. Strung between the pedal harmonium in the crypt and a hook beneath the drawing-room piano. A sharp tug from below produces a single sustained note, enough to convince Miss March she heard Chopin from the wrong room. Marcus laughed, a cracked sound. "A music hall trick. Who's the impresario, then?" Poirot's eyes swept the room. "That is what we discover now." He began the interrogations in the library, one by one, with the door locked and Grimshaw stationed outside. "Lady Lavinia, Alistair was my son in all but name. I would have burned the carpet to save him. Someone else wanted it preserved, at any cost." Marcus Blackwood, "I owe $40,000 at White's. The carpet's worth 10 times that, but I'm not crawling through rat tunnels for it." Khalil, "I serve Mr. Marcus. I do not kill for him, but I know the cellars. I played there as a child. My father was steward before Grimshaw." Dr. Forsyth, "Miss March was sedated at 11 p.m. laudanum, prescribed. She could not have driven the Daimler. Someone carried her." Celeste last. She entered trembling, the bruise on her ankle now livid purple. Poirot offered her a chair. "Mademoiselle, you are an artist. You paint, you dance, you play. Badly, but with passion. You ordered duplicate daggers. You bought scarlet slippers. You left an emerald thread on the carpet. And you wrote the invitations. Your copperplate is unmistakable. Celeste's eyes filled. I wanted to frighten them. Uncle Reginald was selling the carpet to pay Marcus's debts. It's all we have left of Beatrice, of our history. I thought if I made it seem cursed, the buyers would withdraw. And the murders? Her voice broke. I didn't kill anyone. I staged the blood, the rose, the harmonium note. But Alistair was already dead when I crawled through the vent at midnight. I found him, posed, dagger in his chest. I panicked. I added the stage blood to make it look like a haunting. Then Eleanor, she sobbed. I found her in the maze at dawn, already arranged. I ran. Poirot studied her for a long moment. You are lying about one thing. The key in the carpet. Where does it fit? Celeste hesitated. The crypt. There's an iron door behind the harmonium. Beatrice's diary said it held the proof of the bargain. I've never opened it. Poirot dismissed her with a nod. But as she reached the door, he added softly, Mademoiselle, one more thing. Your dressing gown, Alistair's, yet it smells of turpentine. You have been painting in the attic? Celeste froze. I couldn't sleep. Take me there, now. The attic was a cavern of shadows and cobwebs, lit by a single dormer. An easel stood in the centre, a half-finished canvas propped upon it. The Oriental carpet, rendered in oils, the bloodstain, glowing like a wound. But the perspective was wrong, painted as if viewed from beneath. Poirot lifted the canvas. Behind it, a rough plank had been pried from the floorboards. A square of darkness yawned beneath. Another passage, he murmured, this one vertical. He lowered himself carefully. The shaft was narrow, lined with brick, part of the old chimney system. 10 feet down, his feet touched stone. A faint light flickered ahead. The crypt. The harmonium crouched in the corner, its pedals wrapped with the same piano wire. The iron door Celeste had mentioned stood ajar. Poirot pushed it open with the brass key. Inside, a small chamber, velvet-lined, smelling of incense and decay. On a marble plinth lay a leather-bound journal, Beatrice Blackwood's diary, 1903. Beside it, a yellowed photograph, Beatrice in Persian robes, standing beside a carpet identical to the one upstairs, save for one detail. In the photograph, the central medallion was pristine, no stain. Poirot opened the diary to the final entry. 15th of October, 1903. The bargain is sealed. The Shah demands a life for the carpet's safe passage. I have given him my blood, willingly. The stain will appear when the debt is called. My descendants will pay, or the carpet will drink until the pattern is lost. The key opens the truth. Burn this, or guard it. B. Poirot closed the book. Superstition, or elaborate fraud? A soft scrape behind him. He turned. Khalil stood in the doorway, a revolver steady in his hand. You should not have come down here, Monsieur Poirot. Poirot's eyebrows rose. And you, mon ami, should not point guns at detectives. It is très impolite. Khalil's smile was thin. The carpet is worth a fortune in Cairo. Marcus promised me a third. But the others, Reginald, Lavinia, they cling to ghosts. Alistair wanted to sell. I silenced him. Eleanor knew too much. Celeste, he shrugged. I was useful. Her theatrics distracted you. Poirot's hand moved slowly to his pocket. And the growing stain? Pig's blood from the kitchen, pumped through a rubber tube. The vent grate was my idea. Celeste thought it was hers. Khalil gestured with the gun. Step back. The diary burns. The carpet is rolled and shipped tonight. By morning, Blackwood will be ashes. Poirot obeyed, but his eyes never left Khalil's. You forget one thing. The third stain. All Hallows' Eve. Whose blood seals the bargain now? Khalil's finger tightened on the trigger. From the shaft above came a clatter. Celeste's voice, frantic. "Monsieur Poirot!" Khalil whirled. In that instant, Poirot moved, swift as a striking cobra. The Kurdish dagger flashed from his sleeve, slicing the rubber tube that snaked from Khalil's pocket. A jet of crimson liquid, pig's blood, spurted across the crypt floor. Khalil fired. The bullet chipped marble inches from Poirot's head. Then chaos. Grimshaw's bulk filled the doorway, a poker raised like a broadsword. Celeste screamed. Sir Reginald's voice boomed from the shaft. "Police! Drop it!" Khalil hesitated, fatally. Grimshaw's poker caught him across the temple. He crumpled, the revolver skittering across the stone. Poirot retrieved it calmly. "Merci, Grimshaw. Your timing is impeccable." As the constable's whistle sounded outside, Poirot turned to the diary. He slipped it into his pocket. Some truths, he reflected, were better left buried. Upstairs, the carpet lay rolled and silent. The stain had ceased its creeping. But in the crypt, the marble plinth bore a fresh mark, a single drop of real blood, where Khalil's temple had struck. The carpet, Poirot thought, had claimed its third stain after all. Chapter 6. Shadows of the Past. The library smelled of old leather candle smoke and the faint metallic ghost of blood that seemed to cling to every corner of Blackwood Manor. Hercule Poirot stood before the fire, hands clasped behind his back. The Kurdish dagger, now cleaned and wrapped in silk, resting on the mantel like a silent witness. Outside, the October dusk pressed against the tall windows, turning the glass into mirrors that reflected the room's occupants in distorted fragments. Khalil sat handcuffed to a straight-backed chair, his olive skin ashen beneath a livid bruise. Two constables flanked him, their helmets gleaming dully in the firelight. The local inspector, a stout man named Hargreaves, with the perpetually worried expression of a hen counting chicks, hovered nearby, notebook open, pencil poised. Poirot ignored them all. His attention was on the family, seated in a semicircle as though awaiting a funeral oration. Sir Reginald, hollow-cheeked, clutched Beatrice's diary like a talisman. Lady Lavinia's turban had slipped. Grey strands escaped like accusations. Marcus Blackwood nursed a fresh whisky, his scar livid in the firelight. Celeste, wrapped in a blanket despite the warmth, stared at the carpet rolled in the corner, its bulk now innocuous, yet radiating menace. Dr. Forsyth stood apart, medical bag at his feet, spectacles fogged with tension. Grimshaw, ever present, had stationed himself by the door, a silent guardian. Poirot began without preamble. "Mesdames et messieurs, the stage is set, the curtain falls, and the villain is unmasked. Yet the play is not finished. A murder mystery is never complete without its prologue. The shadows of the past that stretch into the present like fingers from a grave. Tonight, we illuminate those shadows." He opened the diary to a marked page. The copperplate was Beatrice's, but the ink had browned with age. 1903. Beatrice Blackwood, age 22, travels to Tehran as companion to Lady Eleanor March. Yes, the same surname as our unfortunate victim, though no relation. She falls in love with a Persian prince, one of the Shah's lesser sons. He gifts her the carpet, woven in Isfahan. Its dyes include crushed lapis and cochineal from crushed insects. Masterpiece. But there is a condition. Poirot turned the page. The prince claims the carpet is bound by an ancient Zoroastrian rite. To leave Persia, it must carry the memory of a life freely given. Beatrice, besotted, pricks her finger and bleeds onto the central medallion. A single drop. The prince is satisfied. The carpet is hers. Lady Lavinia's voice was a croak. Superstition, perhaps, Poirot allowed. But superstitions have a way of becoming self-fulfilling when men believe in them. Beatrice returns to England. The carpet is hung in this very room. And then he snapped the diary shut. She vanishes. Marcus drained his glass. Ran off with the prince. Everyone knows that. No. Poirot's eyes gleamed. Beatrice was murdered, here, in this house. Her blood mingled with the carpet's original drop. The stain that remembers was born. A collective gasp. Celeste's blanket slipped from her shoulders. Poirot continued. The prince, heartbroken, sent a letter, intercepted by Beatrice's brother, your grandfather, Sir Reginald. It demanded the carpet's return, or the debt would be called in blood. Your grandfather refused. He hid the letter, rewrote history. Beatrice became the wayward heiress who eloped. The carpet became a family heirloom, and the curse began to feed. He moved to the rolled carpet, untying the cord with deliberate care. The wool unrolled with a soft sigh, revealing the central medallion, now a patchwork of stains. Alistair's, Eleanor's, the pig's blood, and beneath it all, a faint, almost invisible circle where Beatrice's single drop had soaked in over a century ago. "Observe," Poirot said, kneeling. "The original stain is barely visible, oxidized to brown, but someone knew its exact location, someone who studied the diary." All eyes turned to Khalil. The Egyptian's lip curled. "I found the diary in the crypt 6 months ago. Marcus wanted to sell the carpet, $200,000 to a collector in Cairo, but the family resisted. Alistair planned to auction it publicly. I couldn't allow that." Sir Reginald's voice shook. "You killed my nephew for money." "For survival," Khalil spat. "Marcus's debts would have bankrupted us both. The carpet was our salvation." Poirot's tone was mild. "And Miss March?" "She overheard me in the cellar, planning the shipment. She threatened to tell Celeste. I silenced her." His shrug was almost Gallic. "The replica dagger was Celeste's idea. She thought it was for her little haunting. I merely improved upon it." Celeste's sob was raw. "You used me. Like a pawn," Poirot said gently. "But pawns can become queens, mademoiselle. Your theatrics provided the perfect smokescreen. The growing stain, the harmonium note, the rose, they convinced the household a supernatural force was at work. No one looked for a rational killer crawling through vents." "Doctor," Forsyth cleared his throat, "the laudanum in Eleanor's blood, administered by you, docteur?" Poirot's question was soft, deadly. Forsyth paled. "I prescribed it for her nerves, a mild dose." "Yet she drove the Daimler at dawn. Impossible if sedated, unless—" Poirot's eyes narrowed. "You lied about the dosage, or someone else administered a second, stronger dose." Forsyth's hands trembled. I may have miscalculated." "Or you helped stage her disappearance," Poirot said. "The empty jewel case, the lipstick message, your handwriting, non? You were in love with her. Alistair's engagement was a torment. When she ended it, you saw opportunity." Forsyth's voice cracked. "I wanted to protect her. Khalil threatened her. I thought if she fled, you thought to frame her for Alistair's murder," Poirot finished. "The travelling dress in the car, the ring in the fountain, your touches. But Khalil moved faster. He killed her while you slept off your own laudanum." Marcus laughed. A broken sound. "So the doctor's a fool. The secretary's a killer, and my niece is a playwright. What does that make me?" "A debtor," Poirot said, "and a coward. You knew Khalil's plan. You drank to forget it." Silence fell, heavy as the carpet's wool. Poirot turned to Inspector Hargreaves. "You will take Khalil for the murders. Dr. Forsyth for accessory after the fact, conspiracy to pervert justice. Mademoiselle Celeste," he bowed slightly, For obstruction, perhaps, but her heart was in the carpet, not the grave. Celeste's tears fell onto the blanket. I only wanted to save it. Beatrice's legacy. Legacy, Poirot repeated. A dangerous word. It has drowned stronger families than yours. He moved to the fireplace, lifting the dagger. This blade has tasted enough Blackwood blood. It retires. He placed it in Hargreaves's evidence bag. Sir Reginald stood, unsteady. And the carpet? Poirot considered. It belongs to the past, but the past must not devour the present. I suggest you donate it to the Victoria and Albert Museum. Let it be studied, not worshipped. The curse ends when belief ends. Lady Lavinia's voice was a whisper. And Beatrice. Poirot opened the diary to a pressed violet, brittle with age. She loved unwisely, but she loved. Her true memorial is not wool and dye, but the lesson. Some debts are paid in understanding, not blood. He closed the book. Outside, the constables led Khalil away. His chains clinked like a funeral bell. Dr. Forsyth followed, head bowed. Celeste remained, staring at the carpet as though it might speak. Poirot approached her. Mademoiselle, you're painting in the attic. From beneath, you saw the hidden pocket? She nodded. I found the loose plank months ago. I thought the diary was a fairy tale. I wanted to protect it. Protection, Poirot said softly, sometimes requires destruction. Burn the painting. Keep the memory. As the family dispersed, some to pack, some to weep, Poirot lingered by the fire. He drew a small tin from his pocket, the unbroken ampule of stage blood. He crushed it beneath his heel, the crimson spreading across the hearth tiles like a final, harmless stain. Grimshaw appeared with a tray. Tea, monsieur, or something stronger. Poirot smiled. Tea, Grimshaw, and perhaps a biscuit. The grey cells require sugar. After unmasking villains, the butler poured. Steam curled between them like incense. Tell me, Grimshaw, Poirot said, sipping. You have served this family for 42 years, sir, since I was a footman. You knew Beatrice? A flicker in the butler's eyes. I was 12 when she vanished. I carried her paint-box to the carriage the night she left for Persia. She gave me a sweet, rose-flavoured. I still remember the taste. Poirot's gaze sharpened. And the night Alistair died? Grimshaw's hand steadied the teapot. I locked the drawing-room at 11, as Miss Celeste requested, for her haunting. I had the only key. Yet when Sir Reginald found the body, the door was unlocked, Poirot finished. And the key? In my pocket, sir, always. Poirot set down his cup. Then we have one final shadow. He returned to the carpet, kneeling once more. Beneath the central medallion, where the hidden pocket had been, he pressed his fingers into the pile. A section gave way. Another concealed flap, smaller, stitched with the same black thread. Inside, a brass key, identical to the one in the tin box, and a single rose petal, pressed flat, its edges blackened with age. Poirot's breath caught. Beatrice's petal, from 1903. Grimshaw's voice was barely audible. She said the carpet would remember. I thought it was a child's fancy. Poirot stood. You kept the second key. You unlocked the door for Khalil. The butler's shoulders sagged. He threatened to expose my indiscretion, a youthful error with the silver. I had no choice. Poirot's tone was gentle. There is always a choice, mon ami. You chose the house over its people. Grimshaw's eyes filled. I loved them, all of them, even the carpet. Poirot placed a hand on his shoulder. Then love it one last time. Help me end this. Together they rolled the carpet tightly, sealing away Beatrice's drop, Alistair's life, Eleanor's terror. Grimshaw fetched paraffin from the cellar. In the rose garden, Beneath a sky the colour of dried blood, they laid the carpet on the gravel. Poirot struck a match. The flames caught slowly, then roared, consuming wool and dye and memory. The central medallion glowed briefly, a final, defiant eye, before collapsing into ash. As the fire died, Poirot scattered the ashes into the wind. Ainsi finit la malédiction. Grimshaw watched the smoke rise. And the house will breathe cleaner air, Poirot said. Sell it, or burn it, but let the past rest. That night, Poirot dined alone in the morning room. The table was set for one. Grimshaw served silently, consommé sur meunière, a single peach sliced into a fan. As coffee arrived, Sir Reginald appeared, a cheque in hand. "Your fee, monsieur, and our eternal gratitude." Poirot waved it away. "Keep it. Donate it to a children's hospital. Murder leaves enough debts." He rose, donning his overcoat. "One final thing. The raven crest on your seal. Do you know its meaning?" Sir Reginald frowned. "Family legend. The raven carries the soul to judgment." Poirot smiled. "Then let us hope it carries Beatrice's gently." The taxi waited on the gravel, its engine purring. Poirot paused at the door, looking back at the manor, its windows dark, its gargoyles silent. In the distance, a single light burned in the attic. Celeste, perhaps, burning her painting. Poirot climbed into the taxi. As it pulled away, he opened his notebook to a fresh page. Case closed. Blackwood Manor killer, Khalil. Motive greed. Accomplices, Dr. Forsyth, love. Grimshaw, loyalty. Celeste, preservation. Curse, manufactured but rooted in real blood. Beatrice's resolution, carpet destroyed, truth revealed, house freed. He underlined the final line twice, then closed the book. The taxi turned onto the London road. Behind it, Blackwood Manor faded into the night, its shadows finally at rest, but in Poirot's pocket, wrapped in silk, lay the rose petal, blackened, fragile, eternal. Some memories, he reflected, even fire cannot consume. Chapter 7. Alibis and Deceptions. The morning after the burning, Blackwood Manor woke to a silence so complete it felt surgical. No birds sang in the yew maze, no wind rattled the ivy. The air itself seemed to hold its breath, as though the house had exhaled centuries of secrets with the carpet's smoke, and now waited to see what would fill the vacuum. Hercule Poirot stood in the entrance hall at precisely 7 o'clock, valise in hand, hat upon head. He had intended to depart at dawn. London called, and his little grey cells required the stimulation of the city. Yet something nagged, a loose thread in the tapestry of the case that refused to lie flat. He set the valise down with a soft thud that echoed like a judge's gavel. Grimshaw materialized from the shadows, his butler's mask cracked, but not yet shattered. "Your taxi is delayed, monsieur. Fog on the Canterbury Road." "Fog," Poirot repeated, tasting the word. "Convenient, or orchestrated." He turned on his heel. "I require the household in the morning room, all of them, 10 minutes. Grimshaw hesitated. "Sir Reginald has taken to his bed. Dr. Forsyth will rouse him, and the others. 10 minutes, Grimshaw, or I summon Inspector Hargreaves and his handcuffs." The butler bowed and vanished. Poirot entered the morning room alone. The long table had been cleared of breakfast. In its place lay a single object, a sheet of foolscap covered in his own neat handwriting. Alibis, night of Alistair's murder. Beneath it, a second sheet, timeline, night of Eleanor's murder. He studied both, lips moving silently as he traced columns of times, names, contradictions. At 7:12 the family assembled, dishevelled, red-eyed, clad in yesterday's mourning. Sir Reginald leaned heavily on Dr. Forsyth's arm. Lady Lavinia's turban was absent, revealing hair the colour of steel wool. Marcus reeked of whisky and regret. Celeste clutched a cup of tea as though it were a life raft. Khalil was absent, still in the village lock-up, awaiting transfer to Canterbury jail. Grimshaw closed the door with the finality of a coffin lid. Poirot did not invite them to sit. "Mesdames et messieurs," he began, "a murder investigation is like a game of patience. One lays the cards, one studies the gaps, one waits for the liar to overplay their hand. Last night, I believed the game concluded. Khalil confessed. The carpet burned, yet he tapped the alibi sheet. A single card remains face down. He lifted the page, turning it to face them. In red ink, he had circled one entry. 11:07 p.m. Footman, Grimshaw, locks drawing room door at Miss Celeste's request. Claims sole key. Poirot's gaze fixed on the butler. You swore this door was locked until Sir Reginald discovered the body at 12:15 a.m. Yet Alistair was killed between 11:30 and 11:45, according to Dr. Forsyth's post-mortem. How did the murderer enter a locked room? Grimshaw's Adam's apple bobbed. I cannot say, sir. Cannot, or will not. Poirot's voice was silk over steel. You have served this family for 42 years. You loved Beatrice. You loved Alistair. Yet you unlocked the door for his killer. Lady Lavinia gasped. Grimshaw. The butler's shoulders sagged. Master Alistair was alive at 11:07. I saw him through the keyhole, reading by the fire. Miss Celeste had asked me to secure the room for her performance. I locked it, pocketed the key. At 11:29, Mr. Khalil came to the pantry. He had a second key, said he'd had it cut weeks ago. He threatened to expose my youthful theft unless I turned a blind eye. I went to the kitchen to fetch his special coffee. When I returned at 11:38, the drawing-room door stood ajar. I heard nothing. I saw nothing. I relocked it at 11:45 and retired. Poirot's eyes gleamed. And at 12:15, Sir Reginald found the body. Door unlocked again. You had the key, yet you claim ignorance. Grimshaw's voice cracked. I swear, monsieur, I did not touch it after 11:45. Poirot turned to the timeline sheet. Now, Eleanor's murder. She was last seen alive at 6:45 a.m., entering the garage in her travelling dress. The Daimler left at 6:52. Tyre tracks confirm. Yet, her body was found in the maze at 7:30, posed with the replica dagger. Time of death, 6:55 to 7:05. The car was abandoned in the rhododendrons at 7:10. Who drove it? Who carried her body 50 yards through dense undergrowth in under 5 minutes? Dr. Forsyth cleared his throat. I was in the surgery from 6:30, preparing Sir Reginald's tonic. I heard the car start. Yet you did not investigate? Poirot's tone was mild. I assumed it was Miss March leaving, as her note suggested. Poirot's gaze shifted to Marcus. And you, monsieur? Your bedroom overlooks the garage. Marcus shrugged. Dead to the world. Khalil gave me a sleeping draught at midnight. Laudanum, he said. I woke at 8 with a mouth like the Sahara. Celeste's cup rattled in its saucer. I was in the attic painting. I heard nothing until Grimshaw's shout. Poirot's smile was thin. Painting, at 6:30 in the morning, with turpentine that smells of the crypt. He moved to the window, drawing back the curtains. Fog pressed against the glass like a living thing. Observe the rhododendrons. The path from garage to maze is visible from the attic dormer, yet you claim to have seen nothing. Curious. Celeste's voice was small. I was absorbed in forgery, Poirot said. He produced a sheet from his pocket, Beatrice's diary page, the final entry. Beside it, a fresh sheet in Celeste's hand, the ink still wet. The third stain seals the bargain. Midnight, All Hallows' Eve. The handwriting was identical. Celeste's face crumpled. I only wanted to finish the story, Beatrice's story. I thought if the curse seemed real, you would save the carpet, Poirot finished. But the carpet is ash, and your forgery placed the idea of a third stain in Khalil's mind. He used it to justify Eleanor's murder. Sir Reginald's voice was hoarse. Enough. We are all complicit. Grimshaw's key, Forsyth's laudanum, Marcus's debts, Celeste's theatrics, my refusal to sell. We created the monster. Poirot shook his head. No, monsters are not created by families. They are invited. And Khalil knocked politely. He turned to Grimshaw. One final question. The second key. Where is it? The butler reached into his waistcoat, producing a brass key identical to the one from the carpet's pocket. Khalil returned it after Alistair's death, said he had no further use for it. Poirot took it, turning it in the light. Then let us test its honesty. He led them to the drawing room. The floorboards where the carpet had lain were bare, stained dark with centuries of polish and last night's ashes. Poirot knelt, inserting the key into the lock. It turned smoothly. But the lock was changed in 1910, Sir Reginald protested, after Beatrice's disappearance. Changed, Poirot said, but not the escutcheon plate. Observe. He pointed to the brass plate around the keyhole, scratched, worn, but bearing the same raven crest. The original lock, the new one, was merely a faceplate. Khalil's key fits because it is the original, cut from Beatrice's own key, perhaps. Lady Lavinia's hand flew to her throat. Beatrice's key. Poirot stood. Found in the crypt with her diary. Khalil discovered it months ago. He planned the murder down to the minute. Celeste's haunting gave him the locked room. Grimshaw's guilt gave him access. Forsyth's laudanum gave him Eleanor's compliance. Marcus's debts gave him motive. He faced the family. Your alibis were not lies, they were fragments. Each of you saw a piece of the truth, but none the whole. The deception was not in what you said, but in what you omitted. Marcus laughed bitterly. So we're all innocent. No, Poirot said. You are all guilty of silence, and silence, mes amis, is the loudest lie of all. He moved to the door. Inspector Hargreaves will take statements. Grimshaw, you will confess your part. Dr. Forsyth, your medical license is forfeit. Mademoiselle Celeste, he bowed slightly. Your paintings will hang in galleries, not attics, and you, Sir Reginald, will sell this house. Let the National Trust exorcise its ghosts. Lady Lavinia's voice was a threat. And the raven crest? Poirot paused at the threshold. Let it fly. The soul it carried has found judgment. He collected his valise. The taxi had arrived, its headlights cut through the fog like searchlights. As he climbed in, Grimshaw appeared at the window. Monsieur, the butler said, voice breaking, the rose petal, you kept it? Poirot touched his breast pocket. A reminder, mon ami, that even in ashes, beauty endures. The taxi pulled away. In the rearview mirror, Blackwood Manor shrank to a silhouette, its chimneys dissolving into mist. Poirot opened his notebook to a fresh page. Epilogue, the locked room method, original key plus vent access, motive, greed masked as curse. Moral, families who cling to legends invite their own destruction. He closed the book, then drew the blackened rose petal from his pocket. It crumbled at his touch, scattering across the seat like dark confetti. Outside, the fog lifted. London's spires pierced the sky ahead sharp and clean. Poirot smiled. Another case closed, another set of little grey cells satisfied. And somewhere, in the ashes of a cursed carpet, Beatrice Blackwood finally slept. Chapter 8. The Hidden Motive. The fog had lifted by afternoon, revealing Blackwood Manor in stark, unforgiving detail, its gargoyles leering, its windows blind with dust. Hercule Poirot stood in the music room, the Bechstein Grand open like a confession. Sheet music lay scattered. Chopin, Beethoven, and a single page of Celeste's Nocturne for a stained carpet. Its dedication for A, who heard the wrong note, written in trembling ink. Sir Reginald entered, leaning on a cane, his face the colour of old parchment. The police have Khalil and Forsyth. Grimshaw is confessing. Celeste is in the attic. Marcus is drunk. Lavinia hasn't spoken since dawn. Poirot replaced the music. And you, Sir Reginald, what do you do with the silence? I remember, the baronet said. Alistair at 5, riding his pony through the long gallery. Eleanor at 16 playing this piano. The carpet watching. I refused to sell it to save the family. Alistair wanted to sell to save himself. $250,000 from a Cairo buyer. Farouk, arranged by Khalil. I called him a fool. 2 nights later, he was dead. Poirot pressed middle C on the piano. The note rang slightly off. Celeste heard this note from the drawing room. Eleanor from the conservatory. Yet the piano is here, explain. Sir Reginald frowned. The crypt harmonium, Celeste's theatrics. Non. Poirot lifted the lid. The middle C string was thinner, retuned. Someone ensured the note carried through the vents. They descended to the cellar. Poirot crawled through the heating ducts to a junction beneath the music room, finding a brass speaking tube with levers to direct sound to the drawing room, conservatory, or library. Open the drawing room lever, and a whisper in the crypt becomes a ghost. In the crypt, the harmonium's pedals were wired, but on the floor lay a gold cufflink engraved with the raven crest. Marcus's, Sir Reginald confirmed. In the billiard room, Marcus sprawled across the table, brandy in hand. Poirot held up the cufflink. You were in the crypt the night Alistair died. You heard Khalil kill him through the tube. You did nothing. Marcus's eyes were bloodshot. I was drunk. Thought it was Celeste's nonsense. Khalil said he'd frame me if I spoke. I had $40,000 in debt. The carpet sale was my salvation. Sir Reginald's cane clattered. You let my nephew die. I was afraid, Marcus shouted. Then Eleanor overheard Khalil planning the shipment. He killed her to silence her. I helped stage the car to make it look like suicide. Poirot's voice was quiet. You moved her body to the maze. You wrote the lipstick message in Forsyth's hand. You used Celeste's replica dagger. Marcus nodded, defeated. I thought if the curse seemed real, no one would question the deaths. Poirot turned to Sir Reginald. The buyer, Farouk, was Khalil's cousin. The sale was a lie to lure Alistair. Khalil killed for the carpet's value. Marcus enabled him for debt. Forsyth drugged Eleanor to protect her, unaware Khalil acted. Celeste's theatrics provided cover. Grimshaw's key gave access. Your refusal to sell gave motive. Sir Reginald sank into a chair. We all killed them. No, Poirot said. Silence killed them. The hidden motive was not greed alone, but a family's refusal to let go of a cursed legacy. He faced Marcus. You will confess to accessory. The police wait? Marcus laughed bitterly. The carpet's ash. What's left to save? Poirot's eyes were steady. Your soul, perhaps. In the attic, Celeste painted furiously, the carpet's image glowing on canvas. Poirot entered quietly. Mademoiselle, your note was perfect, but the wrong note was not Chopin's. It was Marcus's silence. Celeste's brush stilled. I wanted to save Beatrice's legacy. Legacy is not wool and dye, Poirot said. It is truth. Burn the painting. Live. Downstairs, Inspector Hargreaves took Marcus's statement. Grimshaw added his confession. Sir Reginald signed over the house to the National Trust, the proceeds to charity. Lady Lavinia, silent no more, wept. Poirot prepared to leave. At the door, Sir Reginald offered a cheque. "Your fee." "Keep it," Poirot said. "Buy Alistair and Eleanor a memorial. Let the raven carry their souls gently." The taxi waited. As it pulled away, Poirot opened his notebook. Hidden motive: Hercule, greed, $250,000, Marcus, debt, silence, Forsyth, misguided love, Celeste, legacy, Grimshaw, loyalty. Sir Reginald, pride, resolution, truth, confession, freedom. He closed the book. In his pocket, the blackened rose petal crumbled to dust. The manner faded into the mist. Poirot smiled. Another motive unmasked, another family freed. Chapter 9. The Gathering Storm. The storm arrived at Blackwood Manor with the precision of a funeral march. At 4 o'clock on All Hallows' Eve, the sky turned the colour of old pewter, and the first fat drops of rain struck the windows like thrown gravel. By 5, the wind howled through the chimneys, rattling the gargoyles and sending clouds of soot into the grates. Thunder rolled across the Kentish hills, each boom echoing the house's final heartbeat. Hercule Poirot stood in the entrance hall, overcoat buttoned, valise at his feet. He had intended to leave at dawn, but Inspector Hargreaves had telephoned. "New evidence, monsieur. The Yard wants you to stay one more day." Poirot had agreed reluctantly. His little grey cells disliked unfinished symphonies, and Blackwood's was still missing its crescendo. The household assembled in the great hall at 6, summoned by Grimshaw's gong. The chandelier flickered, candles guttered in the draught. The family sat in a ragged semicircle, faces lit from below like masks in a morality play. Sir Reginald, gaunt in black, clutched a leather portfolio. Lady Lavinia, turban restored, stared at the bare floor where the carpet had lain. Marcus, newly sober, chain-smoked Turkish cigarettes, the smoke curling like ghosts. Celeste, eyes red-rimmed, wore a plain black dress. Her hands trembled around a rosary of jet beads. Dr. Forsyth stood apart, medical bag packed, resignation letter in his pocket. Grimshaw closed the doors with a thud that sealed them in. Poirot did not speak immediately. He moved to the fireplace, where a single log hissed and spat. On the mantel lay the evidence bags, the replica dagger, the scarlet slipper, the brass speaking-tube mouthpiece, the cufflink, the forged diary page. And, wrapped in silk, the original Kurdish dagger, returned by the police laboratory that morning. He lifted it, the blade catching the firelight. "Mesdames et messieurs, the storm gathers. Tonight, All Hallows' Eve, the veil thins, the dead walk, or so they say." His smile was small, sharp. "But at Blackwood, the dead have been walking for days, summoned not by spirits, but by lies." He turned to the portfolio in Sir Reginald's hands. "You have something for me?" Sir Reginald opened it with shaking fingers. Inside, a single sheet of vellum, the Blackwood crest embossed in gold. "The deed to the house, signed over to the National Trust at midnight, proceeds to a memorial for Alistair and Eleanor, but there is more." He drew out a second document, yellowed, brittle, dated 1903. Beatrice's true will, found in the crypt safe. She left the carpet to the nation, not the family. My grandfather suppressed it to keep the estate intact. Poirot took the will. The copperplate was unmistakable. Beatrice's hand. "To the British Museum, for the education of future generations, let no Blackwood profit from my folly." Lady Lavinia's voice was a thread. She knew, even then. Poirot laid the will beside the dagger. The motive was never the carpet's value. It was its freedom. Khalil wanted to steal it for Farouk. Marcus wanted to sell it for debt. Alistair wanted to honour Beatrice's wish. Eleanor wanted to escape the curse. Celeste wanted to preserve a legend. Grimshaw wanted to protect the house. Dr. Forsyth wanted to protect Eleanor. Sir Reginald wanted to protect the name. Each motive a thread. Together, a noose. He faced them. Tonight, we cut the noose. Thunder crashed. The chandelier swayed, crystals chiming like alarm bells. Poirot continued. The police laboratory report, delivered at noon, the original dagger, Alistair's blood, type O, high alcohol, the replica, Eleanor's blood, type O, traces of laudanum and digitalis, heart medicine, prescribed to whom, docteur? Forsyth's spectacles flashed. Sir Reginald, for his angina. Poirot nodded. Yet the dose in Eleanor's blood was lethal. Someone substituted her laudanum with digitalis. Someone with access to your surgery. Forsyth's voice shook. I locked the cabinet. Yet the key was on your chain, Poirot said. The same chain Marcus borrowed to open the wine cellar on the 29th. He returned it, slightly bent. You noticed nothing. Marcus crushed his cigarette. I was drunk. Khalil asked for a bottle of 95 port. I opened the cellar, that's all. No. Poirot produced the bent key from his pocket. This key opened the surgery cabinet. Digitalis stolen, laudanum replaced. Eleanor drank her nightly dose at 11 p.m., sedated within minutes. At 6 a.m., Khalil carried her to the garage, drove to the rhododendrons, stabbed her with the replica. Marcus followed on foot, wrote the lipstick, message, planted the ring. You staged her flight to protect the sale. Marcus laughed hollow. You can't prove it. Poirot lifted the speaking tube mouthpiece. This was found in your pocket when the police searched you. Your fingerprints, and this... He produced a tiny glass vial, half full of clear liquid. Digitalis solution, hidden in the billiard table's corner pocket. Your hiding place since boyhood, no? Marcus's face crumpled. I didn't want her dead. Khalil said the digitalis would knock her out, make it look like suicide. I thought if she disappeared, the police would blame the curse. The sale would go through. Sir Reginald's cane struck the floor. You murdered her for 250,000? For all of us, Marcus shouted. The house, the name, the debts, everything was collapsing. Khalil promised a new start in Cairo, a museum directorship, a clean slate. Celeste's rosary snapped, beads scattered like hail. You used my theatrics, my rose, my blood. Poirot's voice was gentle. You gave them the stage, mademoiselle. They wrote the tragedy. Lightning flashed, illuminating the hall in stark white. For a moment, every face was a skull. Poirot turned to Grimshaw. And you, mon ami, the second key, you gave it to Khalil, but you also gave him something else. Grimshaw's eyes were wet. The cellar map, drawn when I was a boy. Every duct, every tube, every secret passage. I thought he wanted to repair the heating. Poirot nodded. He used it to move unseen, to plant the rose, to pump pig's blood, to whisper through the tube. Your map was the skeleton key to murder. Lady Lavinia stood, trembling. And I? What did I do? Poirot's gaze softened. You did nothing, and everything. Your silence about Beatrice's will condemned generations to the curse. Your refusal to sell condemned Alistair to desperation. Your grief blinded you to the vipers in your nest. He faced Sir Reginald. And you, mon baron, you suppressed the will. You refused the sale. You prescribed digitalis, knowing Marcus had access. Your pride was the storm's eye. Sir Reginald bowed his head. I killed them with love. Thunder roared. The lights flickered, died. Darkness swallowed the hall. A woman screamed. Celeste! A crash! Glass shattering, footsteps frantic. Poirot's voice cut through the black. Grimshaw! Candles! Matches flared. The scene revealed the French window to the terrace blown open by the storm. Rain lashed the floor. Marcus was gone. Sir Reginald lunged for the door. "The maze! He'll hide there!" Poirot caught his arm. "No, the cellars. He knows them better than any." They ran. Poirot, Sir Reginald, Grimshaw, the constables. Down the service stairs, through the warren of brick arches. The storm's roar faded to a muffled growl. Torch beams danced across damp walls. At the crypt junction, they found him. Marcus stood before the iron door, the replica dagger in his hand, its blade dark with fresh blood, his own. He had slashed his left wrist, arterial blood pooling on the stone. In his right hand, Beatrice's will, torn to shreds. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "The raven, it's coming for me," he slumped. Dr. Forsyth knelt, binding the wound with his tie. "He'll live, for trial." Poirot picked up a shred of the will. "Let no Blackwood profit." He let it fall into the blood. Upstairs, the storm broke. Rain hammered the roof like judgment. The family gathered in the hall, soaked, shivering, silent. Poirot addressed them one last time. "The gathering storm is over. The motives are laid bare. Greed, debt, love, pride, loyalty, legacy. The carpet is ash. The will is honoured. The house will stand as a monument, not to curse, but to truth." He turned to Celeste. "Mademoiselle, your final performance. Play." She moved to the piano, hands steady now. The storm provided percussion. Her fingers provided lament. She played her nocturne for a stained carpet, slow, minor, aching. The wrong note, middle C, rang true for the first time, retuned by Poirot that morning. When the final chord faded, Sir Reginald spoke. "At midnight, the deed is signed. The house becomes public. We leave with nothing but our names." Poirot bowed. "And your souls? Some storms wash clean." At 11:59 p.m., in the library, Sir Reginald signed the deed. The National Trust representative, a dour woman in tweed, countersigned. Outside, the clock struck 12. All Hallows Eve became All Saints' Day. Poirot raised a glass of Perrier. "To Alistair, to Eleanor, to Beatrice, may they rest." The family drank, water, not wine. The storm had passed. Stars pierced the clearing sky. At dawn, Poirot's taxi waited. The house stood empty, its windows open to the wind. Grimshaw locked the gates for the last time. As the car pulled away, Poirot opened his notebook. The gathering storm motives: greed, Khalil, debt, Marcus, love, Forsyth, legacy, Celeste, loyalty, Grimshaw, pride, Sir Reginald, method, speaking tube, digitalis, replica dagger, cellar map, resolution, confession, justice, freedom, epilogue, house preserved, family scattered, curse broken. He closed the book. In his pocket, the last shred of Beatrice's will dissolved into lint. The road to London stretched ahead, clean and bright. Behind, Blackwood Manor stood silent, no longer a tomb, but a testament. The storm had gathered, the storm had broken, the storm had set them free. Chapter 10. The Unveiling of Truth. The first light of All Saints' Day crept over Blackwood Manor like a cautious thief, pale gold and tentative, as though unsure the house deserved illumination. The storm had scoured the sky clean. Only a few ragged clouds lingered, drifting like torn shrouds. The yew maze glistened with rain. The gargoyles wept steadily from their stone jaws. Hercule Poirot stood on the terrace, overcoat unbuttoned, hat in hand. His valise waited by the front door, but he had not yet signalled the taxi. Something in the air, sharp, metallic, final, demanded a last accounting. His little grey cells, usually so disciplined, buzzed with the restless energy of a hive before swarming. Behind him, the great hall doors stood open. The family, or what remained of it, gathered one final time. No chandelier blazed now. Only a single candelabrum on the mantel cast long shadows across the bare floorboards where the Oriental carpet had once lain. The stain was gone, burned to ash and scattered to the wind, yet the boards retained a darker patch. A ghost outline that no scrubbing would erase. Sir Reginald entered first, leaning on Grimshaw's arm. The baronet's face was parchment thin, but his eyes held a clarity Poirot had not seen before. Lady Lavinia followed, turban discarded, her silver hair braided simply. Celeste came last, carrying a small wooden box. Dr. Forsyth and Marcus were absent, detained in Canterbury, awaiting charges. The National Trust representative, Miss Harrow, stood discreetly by the library door, deed in hand. Poirot turned. Mesdames et messieurs, the hour of truth arrives. Not the truth of police reports or confessions extracted under duress, but the truth that lives in the bones of this house. Today, we bury the past. He gestured to the candelabrum. Extinguish the candles, Grimshaw. Light is for the living. The butler obeyed. Darkness folded around them, broken only by the dawn filtering through the tall windows. Poirot's voice emerged from the gloom, calm, inexorable. Beatrice Blackwood did not elope. She did not vanish into Persian legend. She died here, in this hall, on the 15th of October, 1903. Her blood, willingly given, according to her diary, was the first stain. Her brother, your grandfather, concealed the truth to preserve the estate. He forged a new will, suppressed hers, and invented the tale of the runaway heiress. The carpet became both shrine and shackle. Sir Reginald's voice was hoarse. How can you know this? Poirot stepped into the dawn light, producing a small leather-bound book. Not Beatrice's diary, but a ledger, its pages brittle with age. The household accounts 1903, found in the muniments room at 3 a.m. An entry in your grandfather's hand. B. Accident. Carpet ruined. $500 to Isfahan weaver for silence. The weaver was paid to alter the carpet, to weave the central medallion around the stain, to make it part of the design. The curse was born of guilt, not Zoroastrian rite. Lady Lavinia's rosary clicked. An accident. No, murder. Poirot opened the ledger to a pressed violet, Beatrice's, from the carpet's pocket. She discovered her brother's embezzlement, funds siphoned to cover gambling debts. She threatened exposure. He struck her with the Kurdish dagger, your grandfather's souvenir from Tehran. A single blow to the heart. The set carpet absorbed the blood. The weaver concealed it. The legend concealed the crime. Silence, thick as the vanished carpet's pile. Poirot continued. The curse was a lie, but lies have weight. Each generation added to it. Your father, Sir Reginald, refused to sell for fear the stain would be discovered. Alistair sought to sell to escape the lie. Khalil exploited the lie for profit. Marcus enabled it for survival. Eleanor died because she saw through it. Celeste embellished it for love of Beatrice. Grimshaw protected it for loyalty. Dr. Forsyth medicated it to preserve Eleanor. Every motive, every murder, rooted in a century-old deception. He placed the ledger on the mantel beside Beatrice's violet. But truth, like dawn, cannot be suppressed forever. Sir Reginald sank into a chair. What now? Poirot opened Celeste's wooden box. Inside, a small brass urn, its surface etched with the raven crest. The ashes of the carpet, mixed with soil from Beatrice's grave, unmarked beneath the sundial in the maze. Today, we return her to the earth, and we return the house to the nation. Miss Harrow stepped forward. The trust accepts the deed. The house opens to the public next spring. A plaque will commemorate Beatrice, Alistair, and Eleanor. The truth will be told. Celeste's voice was steady. And the raven, Poirot smiled, will fly. He opened the terrace doors. A cold wind swept in, carrying the scent of wet yew and distant wood smoke. From the maze came the harsh cry of a rook, once sharp, final. They processed to the sundial. Grimshaw carried the urn, Sir Reginald the ledger. Poirot walked beside Celeste, who clutched a single white rose. The maze paths were slick. Dew soaked their shoes. At the centre, the sundial's gnomon pointed to eternity. Poirot knelt, digging with his bare hands. The soil was soft, loamy, recently disturbed. He unearthed a small tin box, rusted but intact. Inside, a lock of dark hair, a gold locket engraved B, and a scrap of wool. Crimson, indigo, the carpet's exact shade, stiffened with ancient blood. "Beatrice's relics," Poirot said softly. "Your grandfather buried them with her. The carpet was her shroud." He placed the urn in the hole, then the relics. Celeste laid the white rose atop them. Sir Reginald poured a handful of earth. Grimshaw followed. Lady Lavinia wept silently. Poirot spoke the final words. "Beatrice Blackwood, rest. Your blood has stained enough. Alistair, Eleanor, your deaths end the lie. The raven carries you all to judgment, but judgment is mercy." They filled the grave. The sundial's shadow lengthened, marking the new day. Back in the hall, Miss Harrow collected the signed deed. "The house is yours no longer," she said gently. "It belongs to history." Sir Reginald nodded. "And we to the future." Poirot collected his valise. At the door, Celeste embraced him, brief, fierce. "Monsieur, you gave us truth. It hurts, but it heals." He patted her cheek. "Paint, mademoiselle. Paint the sunrise, not the stain." Grimshaw opened the taxi door. "Safe travels, sir, and thank you." Poirot climbed in. As the car pulled away, he looked back. The family stood on the steps, small, diminished, but upright. The manor loomed behind them, no longer a prison, but a monument. The rook wheeled overhead, then vanished into the brightening sky. Poirot opened his notebook to the final page. Case closed. Blood on the Oriental carpet. First murder, Beatrice Blackwood, 1903, by her brother, embezzlement cover-up. Second, Alistair Blackwood, 1935, by Khalil, carpet theft. Third, Eleanor March, 1935, by Khalil, Marcus, silence witness. Motives, greed, debt, legacy, loyalty, pride, love, all rooted in a lie. Resolution, truth unveiled, carpet destroyed, house preserved, family freed, moral. Legends or chains, truth is the key. He underlined the final line, then closed the book. From his pocket, he drew the blackened rose petal, Beatrice's last relic. He crumbled it between his fingers, letting the dust scatter through the open window. The taxi turned onto the London road. Sunlight flooded the fields, gilding the hedgerows. Poirot leaned back, eyes half closed. Another case concluded, another truth unveiled. The raven had flown, the storm was over. And Hercule Poirot, satisfied at last, allowed himself a small, perfectly symmetrical smile.